Hey everyone, today I'm going to walk you through the README for the Morpho liquidation bot. This is an open source tool we have built to make interacting with Morpho liquidations more accessible for developers. As the description says, it's designed to be simple, fast, and easily deployable. Key point here is that it's RPC only, meaning it doesn't rely on complex external infrastructure beyond the standard node connection and the Ponder indexer, which it runs locally. Okay, first up, we have this architecture diagram, which gives a high-level overview. You can see the flow. You have the Ponder indexer here, running locally, shown in the apps Ponder directory that we will check right after. It listens to the blockchain events emitted from the Morpho contract, and it listens them from the RPC node. It processes these events, builds a local database, and serves an API. Then our liquidation client calls the Ponder API to find opportunities. When it finds one, it constructs a transaction bundle and it sends it to your executor contract. This executor contract is an on-chain contract that we will have to deploy to get this bot running. And this executor contract is interacting with the Morpho contract to perform the liquidation, but also it can interact with liquidity venues such as Uniswap or Paraswap, for instance, to handle the seized collateral that will be swapped toward the loan asset. So let's check a few things here. So the goal of this tutorial is for me to perform the walkthrough of this README and have one liquidation bot running on, and we'll take Corn for the example, Corn chain, where I will set up this liquidation bot from scratch. So you have a bunch of features, you have a bunch of disclaimer. Actually, the disclaimer is quite important. So what is crucial is to understand that this is an open source software provided as is. Running a liquidation bot involves real financial risk, gas costs, slippage, potential failed transaction, competition, etc. So use it at your own risk. Understand the code and preferably start like on deb markets, and we'll see that right after. In any case, the Morpho Association is not responsible for any potential loss of funds resulting from the use of this bot. All right, so now we have the requirements. So we'll get this liquidation bot running on my current machine. I will have this Node.js version above 20. I will use PNPM as the package manager. I will have Docker running in the background, a valid RPC URL, a private key with enough funds to pay for gas, and this is important. We'll see that later on. And the executor contract deployed for this EOA. All right, so let's do every single step. So I'm cloning the bot. Then what I will do is to jump on the folder. And then I will run pnpm install. While this gets running, let's check few things here and there. Like we can have a very quick look at the three main components, which are client, config, and ponder, and obviously the .on.example. So let's copy paste that, set up our own .env file. We will set it up from scratch. So for this example, I will even change that to a .of.local. And we'll play with Corn. So the RPC URL will be to this one. So let's change everything okay. And perfect. So I will set everything for this. All right, so the RPC URL is the mainnet Corn one that Corn is providing. Executor address, I don't have any, so I will keep it blank for now. Liquidation private key, at the end of the walkthrough of those 5 parameters, I will put mine, one of my testing wallet. As vault whitelist, we won't use any vault for this liquidation example. An additional market whitelist, I will provide you the market of interest. So what I'm even going to do is basically, okay, so I'm jumping on the Morpho documentation. I jump into addresses and I select corn, for instance. I jump on the Morpho contract and great, so we'll create the market. I prepared the right market param struct. First is the loan token, then collateral token, oracle. The oracle is very specific here. I'm using like a mock oracle where I will be able to play around with the price that the oracle is returning, the ERM, and one of the DAO approved LLTV. Let's sign this. All right. In the transaction, I can retrieve in the logs the market ID. So here is, for instance, is the ID of the market, and I can validate that the market exists straight on the Morpho Blue contract thanks to the ID to market params. Perfect. So this is the tuple we will be working with, and this is the market ID, and I'm keeping it for later. Great. So let's come back into our bot. We will force the liquidation bot to monitor only this market, and I will put my liquidation private key right now. I set everything for the .env file. What I'm going to do now is we are going to check the next step. So we also have to check the chain. So we have to go into the apps config.ts folder, apps client config.ts. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to remove base anyway, and I'm going to do corn. So let's modify everything. I will speed up the video, of course. How to retrieve the right addresses. I'm like back into the documentation, scrolling down. All right, so basically this is the configuration for corn. All right, then what do we have to do next? So we put Morpho Blue, we put the adaptive curve, we put Metamorpho. As secrets, we already filled the chain secrets. We don't have an executor address yet. So let's talk a bit about liquidity venues. Similar to the main chain config, as this section is in apps config RSRC liquidity venues here. And this section is mostly for advanced cases, like if UniV3 is not like its factory is not supported on Corn, or if you want to add any new liquidity venue, all you have to do is respect this interface with the support route and the convert function as well. The goal of this tutorial is not to jump straight into how to implement liquidity venue, but it's like fairly straightforward looking at the example provided already. Great. Now, okay, a key step is deploying your personal executor contract. As we mentioned before, the executor contract will liquidate, like we will craft the transaction we will get our transaction crafted towards the executor contract that will perform the liquidation and potentially leveraging the liquidity venues to swap the collateral for the loan token. So what do? We have to deploy the executor. And this bot uses an executor contract that is provided by RebelMax, a core contributor to Morpho, to the Morpho protocol. This contract is not part of the Morpho stack, but it's like a very useful contract to perform liquidations, as we will see. All right, so let's deploy it. So we have this address of the executor contract, and we will be able to put it straight into our .env or .env.local file. Great, so just so you know, I manually added this. We already talked about the liquidity venues. We do not need to add our own venue. And now we'll run the bot. Quick words about the liquidation process. To get everyone up to speed with this subject, basically on Morpho, what one can do is at the market level, open a borrow position. What that means is that one needs to provide collateral, borrow against it, and keep the health factor uh, smaller than 1. If the health of your position is decreasing too much, you could become unhealthy with an LTV above LLTV. And this is when the liquidator can come in, repay the loan asset, seize the collateral, and liquidate your position. Why the liquidator would do this? It's because he or she will get a specific bonus based on the LTV of the market where you provided the liquidity. All right, so this is just the liquidation process, but it's like quite classic. All right, so all we have to do is run the npm liquidate now, executing the command. So what we're going to do is execute this. Just so you know, this system is designed to be modular and extensible. So this is very powerful for developers because if you ever need to use Curve, Balancer, or Private Market Maker, you just have to create your new liquidity files. So now that we are running the bot, it's like indexing everything. It's going quite fast as Corn doesn't have lots of transaction already. The setup is complete. The executor is deployed, configured, and right now, like Ponder started. The script launched the Ponder indexer. You'll see lots of logs, and now it's like perfect. The client waits a bit, monitoring the loop, and then it's syncing in real time. Why am I saying in real time? Let's see. Finalized. It was like 13 seconds ago. Great. So we now have a bot running. What we decided to add, just for the sake of like analysis, etc., is a specific endpoint where one can check which position exists. And in our case, I will be like the only depositor of this freshly created market with a fake loan asset, fake collateral asset, and fake oracle as well. So what I did is like I jump in here. The chain, like all you have to do is change the chain and the market ID if necessary. And here we can see a position where we have some collateral and there is no supply share, borrow shares whatsoever. What we're going to set up is a position with a specific health factor. Then we are going to play around with the oracle price as a reminder, because the oracle is a mock, I can play around with it. And after that, we'll see in real time this bot liquidating the position. All right, so all I have to do right now, and I will speed up the video, is to set up like some liquidity into the markets. Currently, there is no supplied assets, no borrowed assets, just some collateral deposited. So I will set that up and come back here. All right, so we can see that there are indeed a specific supply indexed event, and then there was the borrow event. And now we can check that there is indeed some supplied assets in the market, but also a borrow position is provided. Great. I just refreshed the endpoint. It directly queried the API, and it shows that we indeed have some liquidity, like supply liquidity in the market. We have a specific health factor like this, and we borrowed some assets against our collateral. Collateral here represents 100 units. Here it's 60 units of borrowed amount in a market with an LTV of 91.5%, which means that if my LTV, my loan to value, is going above this, we are going to be into this situation. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to wait for interest to be accrued. I will just update the oracle as if there was a huge oracle update change in terms of price. And we'll see what's going to happen. All right, so for this, what do I need to do? I just need to first jump into the specific oracle. Let's get here. All right, so as the owner of this mock oracle, I can play around with it. The latest price is this one. What I'm going to do is just setting the price to a new one. So I'm going to set a new price for the oracle, pricing the collateral token towards the loan token to 0.9 instead of 1. And we'll see the change reflecting here very soon. So as the indexer is not indexing the price like this, all it does here is that it's querying on a regular basis the Oracle price, the effective one. So let's see if my health factor changed. It changed. We can see that I was like at 1.5 to 1.37 here. Great, and now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to change the price low enough such that the bot will find this position as a liquidatable position and liquidate me. So let's do it. All right, so I'm going to put the price to like 5. Also, what I'm going to do is like I'm going to monitor the liquidation that might happen here. All right, so what I have to do is this one. Let's execute. All right, and okay, the liquidation happened very fast, indeed. What we're going to do now is that we are going to check again the position. Okay, what happened? Okay, the position I had in the past was fully repaid. I no longer have any borrow shares, and my collateral was seized. Also, what we can do is that we can jump, for instance, on Morpho to check which events happened recently. And we'll see that the last event was a liquidation, like as written here, where some assets were seized, some assets were repaid, and the liquidator, like this bot, managed to liquidate my position. All right, so what did we saw? We saw that the Morpho contract like emits events. The events are scanned and listened by the RPC, like by the Ponder indexer that is indexing them thanks to the RPC node. The Ponder API pulls the API and finds the opportunities. The liquidation client is crafting the transaction bundle and shoot them to the executor contract. And the executor contract is calling for the liquidation. What we can just validate in the end is who in this transaction hash, who like interacted with which contract, and we can see this address that is the executor contract I just deployed a few minutes ago. We can see that right before. Great. That's a walkthrough of the README and the conceptual demo of how the bot operates. The key takeaways are it's designed for developer ease of use and extensibility, especially the liquidity values. It relies on a simple RPC plus Ponder setup. The configuration is primarily through the .env file and also the config files. The deployment involves running pnpm. All you have to do to get this running is like executing the command pnpm liquidate. Remember the risks involved and dive into the code on GitHub. Cheers.